Hi, I'm Jim McCarthy and this is the 5th video blog which I'm doing for drumclinic.com. The subject of today's discussion is all the different sounds that you can get out of a single drum. In particular, the snare drum. We're going to use the snare drum because, of course, in a drum kit, it's one of the most important drums you've got there. Also, it's a very important drum in its own right. If you've got a drum corps background, then you'll know that the snare drum is very important. In fact, it's even used as a solo instrument. The great thing about the snare drum is it's already got two sounds built in. Most of you will know that if I flip this lever off down here, okay, the snare wires come off the bottom skin and I get a normal drum sound. If I flick it on, I get the snare sound that we all are so familiar with. One thing that you may not consider or have considered before is the transition between the two sounds. Okay? In particular, if you're playing in an orchestra or even if you're playing in a band, a rock band or a jazz band, and you're playing a quiet song and you've got the snares off, okay? And you need to turn them on, but the music's soft, so you can't have that sound you get if you just slap the lever on. Even if you try and do it gradually, inevitably though, at some point the snares are going to make contact and you're going to get this sound of the snares almost like you're hitting the drum. Now, a great way to avoid this, and you're not going to see this very well from the camera because it's not quite low enough, but if you put your hand underneath the drum, okay, and I'm going to put them up underneath those bottom snare wires, okay, and I'm going to, before I pull the lever, gradually pull these snares up so that they're just touching the skin, and I can do that so gradually that, that you don't really hear it. Now I'm pushing up against that bottom skin and muffling it as well. Now I can pull the lever up and listen carefully. All you heard there is the click of the lever. I can even get rid of that. I'll turn it off again. Here's the lever. Okay, and essentially there's very, very little sound there. So that's a great way to make that transition, particularly if you're playing in an orchestra or something like that and you need to get the snares on, use your hand underneath the drum. Okay, so now we've got the basic snare sound hitting in the middle of the drum. You might also play the snare drum out towards the edge. That's a different sound again, very, very commonly used. Let's listen to the difference in sound, the middle and the edge. The difference in sound around the edge, you're going to get it's a much ringier sound. You get more of the high harmonics of the drum by playing out towards the rim area. You can see it better if I do it out here. So here's the middle of the drum and out to the edge. Middle, edge. It's a much easier way to get an even sound though. If you don't play out here, you play further away, so more towards where you are, the position of the camera there. So here's the middle, and if I just push the tips of my sticks further towards where you're standing now, or sitting watching me at the computer, that's much easier to get an even sound because I can get the tips of my sticks in exactly the same spot, by the same lug, same tension, same distance away from the rim. I'm going to get the same sound from each stick. Okay, so that's the difference between playing on the rim and the center. Playing in the center will give you a crisper sound, the short sound of the snare just going snap. If I play out here, it's a longer sound. So if you want a crisp sound, you need to play in the center of the head. Sometimes people will use playing by the rim to make it easier to play softly, and it certainly does do that. It's easier to play softly if you're out here because you're not activating as much of the drum. The problem is, of course, that it does change the sound as well. So you need to be pretty careful if you don't want the sound to change, or if you need to keep your crisp definition, if you're playing fast and soft, then you perhaps don't want to get out to the edge. You steer closer to the center, need a little bit more control, but the sound will be better. Listen to the difference. Need a lot of control, but it's a much nicer sound, a crisper sound. So that's the difference between the edge and the center. Of course, most of us will also be familiar with being able to get different sounds from the drum by simply hitting it in different spots. I could hit on the shell of the drum down here, and that's going to vary depending on what your drum is made of, metal or wood or whatever. Also just playing on the rim. That makes a different sound again, a very common one. Just make sure if you are playing on the rim, particularly if you're playing in a section of music where you need to kind of combine the rim and the head together, the rim is inherently a softer sound. So bring those notes out, play them more strongly. The drum is a much louder sound naturally, so kind of play those notes down a bit, and that'll bring the two back into balance. So Okay, that sort of thing, very common in a lot of snare drum solos. Okay. In addition to playing on the rim and the side and so forth, we could actually play using the rim and the skin at the same time. Most of us will know this as a rim shot. So the tip of the stick makes contact with the skin, but at the same time, this shaft part of the stick makes contact with the rim. Okay, so you need to get that angle just right so that you can hit both at once. It's a very loud sound, very good for big accents. Once again, you can change the sound you get from a rim shot by how far away the tip of the stick is from the rim. If I have a big distance between the contact point on the rim and the stick, I tend to get a chunky sound. If I get the tip of the stick very close to the rim, I need a bit more angled too. A bit more of a pingy sound, once again with the higher harmonics because it's closer to the rim of the drum. Let's listen to the difference again. So they are rim shots. Okay. Some people call this action a rim shot, okay, where we're holding the stick on the skin and clicking the rest of the stick over the rim. Strictly speaking, that's not a rim shot, although you'll sometimes hear it referred to as a rim shot. More properly, this is called a rim click or a cross stick. Okay, so the cross stick or the rim click. And I'm pushing the butt of the stick into the skin, muffling the sound a bit, and then just ramming the rest of the stick onto the rim. Once again, you can change the sound by how far away the butt of the stick on the skin is from the rim. Some people prefer to do that the other way around with the tip of the stick on the skin. I don't think it really makes a lot of difference. It may be a slightly chunkier sound if you use the butt of the stick that way. That's the way a lot of people do it. Okay, so that's the cross stick or the rim click, not the rim shot, although you'll sometimes hear it referred to as that. A way you can get that sort of rim click or cross stick sound, if you're in a bit of a hurry and don't really have time to get the hand down there, is to actually just lay the tip of the stick on the drum head and hit it with the other stick. And that creates a similar sound. Once again, you can get it by holding the stick down onto the rim and the skin at the same time, so in that rim shot position, and hitting it, or up. Slightly different sounds. You get a bit more of the high harmonics of the rim sound when you contact both together. More drum if you do it this way. It's a very quick way of doing it. You can, very quick. The other great thing about this stick on stick sort of idea is that you actually get some really cool effects with it. If I just kind of use the first finger and use a bit of tension there, so almost like I'm playing a buzz stroke with that hand, okay, but actually activate it with the other hand, hitting stick on stick, I can get like a buzz roll, but I'm getting this clicking pulse, so like this. Okay, so that sort of sound. In fact, if I get the tension just right on that first finger, I can make it so it's more of a double stroke, so it's sort of click, hit, click, hit, click, hit, and that one finger just putting one stroke in between each click, like this. Now that's probably pretty hard to hear on this pretty horrible snare drum I'm using at the moment, so I'll just bring the practice pad in here. You can sort of just see the practice pad, but you'll be able to hear it a lot better. Here's the buzz version. And the double stroke version. Okay, just using that finger and the stick on stick to activate it. And as usual, if you want to check out more of our free video blogs, learn more about drumming technique, or just look at all sorts of information on drumming, just check out drumclinic.com. That's drum-clinic.com.